Welcome to April Senior Wellbeing. It's so good to see everybody here again. So we have a guest speaker with us today, Tammy Barnett. I had a different name that I was going to say. I'm like, that's not right. Tammy Barnett is going to help us explore what our circles are like, what we, all of the relationships in our lives, and help to talk about how we navigate through that. And so I'm going to let Tammy tell you more about who she is, but I'd like to just start us off with a little prayer, okay? God, thank you for this time of fellowship and friendship, old friends and new friends and friends we don't know that we need yet. Thank you for bringing the right people into our lives at the right time. And thank you for Tammy, because this is a big blessing for me. So help us learn and grow today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Okay, so can everyone hear me? No, I heard a no. I heard a no. No. Can everyone hear me? That was my first test to turn on the microphone, so, all right. All right, so we're loud and clear then, right? So thank you so much for allowing me to be here and for you being here. And I just so believe in this program that Barb is doing. It's just so important for us to be able to stay self-aware and learn. And, you know, sometimes I think we get to a point in our life where we think we've learned maybe everything we need to learn, but we need to continue to learn. I had a friend today, I said something about aging, and I said, you know, I guess as we continue to age, technology and help will be offered to us. And she said, well, I hope so. I don't know. This is my first time aging, so. I thought that was great. So my name is Tammy Barnett, as Barb said. I am a board-certified Master Life Coach, and I'm certified through the American Association of Christian Counselors, as well as the International Board of Christian Counselors. My specialties, one of my specialties is relationships, and particularly I work a lot with helping people set boundaries, learn how to set boundaries in their relationships, and that's one of my favorite things. I also have special emphasis and specific research in addictions and recovery, integrative medicine for mental health, and a lot of work with just overall well-being. So when Barb asked me to come, I was so excited to be able to share this relationship piece with you. Questions? Questions about me? Okay. How do you get a hold of me? So I have a website that's very easy to get to. It's tammybarnett.com. I also have left some business cards and a little rack that talks about what life coaching is. And that's a new concept, or fairly new concept to some people. It's a little different than counseling. It's not, we don't diagnose what's going on. We look at your issues that you're having and say, okay, so where do we go from here? So it's a forward-moving type of situation that we focus on. And my business cards and information is back there on the table. So I love doing this kind of thing, and usually it's very interactive, so I'm just gonna ask that you all participate today. Is there feedback? I'm hearing feedback. Is there feedback? All right. Yeah, that might be okay for a short period of time. We can do anything for a short period of time, but I don't know about 2 hours. So we did a test and it was fine. All right. We need to test. I'm just going to go ahead and begin, and then if you need me to stop, I can do that. Does everyone have a pen with them? A working pen? All right. So there's going to be lots of writing today, lots of brainstorming. Brainstorming is one of those activities where you don't really critique yourself, you don't criticize yourself, you don't correct your spelling, you don't worry about your grammar. You just write your stream of thoughts on a certain topic. So we're going to be doing a lot of that today. The title of our session today, and this is part of that root system still. How many, is this our last root, Barb? Yeah. Okay, so this is the last root, and it's going to involve relationships, strengthening your circles. So circles are another root system to establish well-being. So again, we're focusing on that overall well-being. Relationships are the support systems that keep us grounded. And today we're going to explore the importance of building and maintaining strong connections with others to foster emotional and spiritual health. Okay, you did hear that? Okay, all right. So the topics that we're going to cover specifically involve, first we're going to identify our circles. Yes. She has one too. Okay. I'll be all decorated up here. All right. All right. You're welcome. Testing. Can you hear? All right. Anyone else have anything they need me to wear? These are great. I love them. I really love them. All right, so we're going to begin by identifying what our circles are, because if we don't know what we don't know, then we can't do anything about it, right? We can't build and we can't establish, we can't do anything unless we're aware of what we already have. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at how they've changed over the course of your life. You know, when we were 20 years old, our lifestyle was probably a little different than what it is now, right? So how have they changed? We're going to understand the importance of it. Relationships. Relationships are critically important. Sometimes, you know, I think we think, well, I don't really need any friends, but we really do, because that's how God has designed us. He has said, you know, he said in Genesis, man was not created to be alone. So he has created us that way. Then we're going to look at what circles do we need to build? Or maybe we need to reestablish and strengthen some of those relationships. And then we're going to talk about the strategies. How do we find circles? How do you find friends? And how do you maintain those relationships? So that's kind of our overview of what we're going to be talking about today. So let's dive in, and it would be on page 2. So after that big thriving tree, notice that thriving tree with all the different strong root systems that it has. Let's begin by identifying who is in your circle, or what do your circles look like. And here's a few to get you started, and then you've got a few listed on page 2. It starts with church friends. That might be one of our circles. How many of you have church friends? All right. So maybe jot down your top 3 or 4, just for time's sake, because you could always do. So maybe go ahead and jot down your church friends that you would have. Needs a pen? Great. We've got pens. Anyone else need a pen? Now this was a free gift with purchase, so if they don't work, let me know. I'm not sure what the quality is like. I'm a sucker for buy one, get ones though. All right. So church friends. Yes. All right, so let's just jot down a couple of church friends. Let's get your mind going. This is your first brainstorming exercise. And our PowerPoint's a little different in the structure of it. None of your pens work? None of your pens work? See, I told you. I warned you. Oh, he's got the multicolored one. All right. What's the next one, someone?
Something that a lot of us don't have.
Okay. Something that some of us don't have. That's right. That's going to be one of the changes, right? And so in that one, if there is a significant other in your life, so maybe somebody that does live with you, you know what we're going to do too as we go along. No, I'm going to wait. We'll come back to do that. Okay. And the next one is God. How many would you think of God as being in one of your circles? Yeah. Yeah. How about family? That would consist of who? What would be your family? Who are some of your families? Still see some people writing. All right, so the next one on our list is what? Somebody, anybody? Neighbors, okay. So these are people that you can think of that live close by. And then work-life friends, so people that maybe you work with currently, people you used to work with and you've maintained a relationship, or people that you volunteer with. How about clubs and organizations? What might that look like? Any examples that you can think of any clubs or organizations that you might belong to? Yes.
Sail of Freedom.
Okay, Sail of Freedom.
Helping the girls.
Absolutely.
And getting to know everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Local senior center.
Local senior center. Right. Yeah.
YMCA.
YMCA. Veterans.
Audubon.
Audubon. Ooh, pretty. Yeah. Anything else you can think of?
I have a gourmet group.
A gourmet group. Wow. Wow. That sounds fun. Is that some place that you go, or is that in home?
Taylor's homes, and the men cook. It's really good.
Wow. Okay, so we need to connect. Yes.
Community gardening.
Community gardening, yes. Yeah. Lots of yes.
American Legion.
American Legion. Yeah. Sarasota has a lot to offer, doesn't it? Yes, it does. It does. So I thought of another category on my, actually when I had already finished completing my notes here. And one category that came to mind was people in my life that I can call no matter what time of the day. So I call them my 3 a.m. people. If something is going on in my life and I need help right away and it's 3 a.m., who is that one or two or maybe 3 people that I could call?
That could be
10 o'clock people, yes. Yes, I can relate, yes. So any other groups that you can think of? Any other categories that maybe I've left off of what is it? Gym, okay.
Car clubs.
Car clubs, okay. So we might put those underneath the friends from clubs and organizations category.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Those are a different kind.
But you can have, it sounds like there might be multiple clubs and organizations that are in your life already. So now I want you to look at, starting back up at the top on Church Friends, we're going to evaluate our group, our circles now. So we're going to evaluate between the numbers of 1 and 10. 1 means this category is non-existent. So, that don't have any. 10 is, wow, I'm overflowing. I probably don't need any more people in this circle. So if you'll put a number beside each one, so church friends, where are you at there, 1 to 10?
One being.
1 being, I don't have any. I don't have any. This circle doesn't exist for me. So I have no church friends. So probably none of you in this group would have a 1, right? So do you go by Gregory? Greg. So if Greg has a 1 in this category, then all of you need to stay after. Meet up with him. So again, that 1 means it's non-existent. Where do you see him? We're going to take just a few minutes to do this. Don't think real hard into this. Just put that number that comes to mind. Don't criticize yourself or, judge or.
I can't imagine never wanting to add any more to any of the groups, though.
So maybe it would never be a 10.
Yeah.
We live in this world that we think we always have to be 10. We don't always have to be 10.
There's always change.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
If someone's going to have a baby in the family, you definitely want to add that one.
Exactly, yes.
You put a 10 and then all of a sudden my grandma dies.
Exactly.
You're back down again.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I had to put that because, there's always that one cynical person that's going to say.
I need any more friends. I have 2 friends that said that.
See? Okay, does everyone have their numbers? Yes, no, wait, hold up. You're going too fast, you're going too slow. All right, so leave those alone, and we're going to go to the next topic. We'll come back to that one, so don't forget about it. So how have your relationships changed over time? So think back when you were, I don't know, 25, 30. Can you think back that far? I don't know, maybe 40. How have your relationships changed? And if you turn your notes, there are a few ideas. So the truth of the matter is as we get older, our relationships change. They change for many reasons. They change, people die. That's already been mentioned. Grandma died, and so we're down a number. Our involvement in the outside world. You think about, and maybe this doesn't apply for some of you. Maybe you're busier now than you've ever been in your entire life. I've heard that before. But maybe you're not as active in the outside world. When you think back, like when I think back when I was 30, I had 2 young kids, a job, lots of responsibilities. So I was going all the time. And so I had a lot of circles because I was out there going a lot. But, as we age, sometimes we're not as active in as many groups, but maybe we are. That would just be one possible factor. We also sometimes become more selective. And now help me out and tell me if this is true in your life. You become really selective, and there are just certain people that maybe when you were 30, you really tried hard to be their friend, but today, nah, I just don't want to spend time with them. So we become more selective, and that's not a bad thing. Because remember, we're talking about well-being here, right? We're talking about well-being. So those would be some reasons why our relationships change. Anyone think of anything else? Yeah.
One of the things that happened to me is several of my friends are moving to be closer to their children now.
Okay.
And so that's a little disruptive.
Okay.
Friendships.
Great. Yes. Great reason. So your friends move away to be closer to their family. Right.
We ourselves move.
You yourself move. Okay. Yeah. And then you're making new friends, but you've lost those friends, or you're further away from them. With the technology that we have now, we get to stay connected. Maybe not in the same way, but sure we can. So some of the great things that we don't always think about how they change is that they become more meaningful. There's usually less problems, less negativity due to our life experiences and our maturity. So, life is short. I don't have time to worry about that. When I was younger, I wanted to focus on that. I wanted to harbor that. I wanted to be resentful, But, as we get older, we don't. Oftentimes, relationships provide greater appreciation. So we appreciate people more, those people in our lives, and appreciate the support, and we receive the support. I think this next one really is interesting to me, is that as we mature, we have greater self-acceptance of ourselves. So we don't compare as much, we don't worry about whether people like us or not. We don't compare ourselves. There's less conflict. And therefore, we can cultivate longer-term supportive relationships. We also have time to focus more on relationships. I'm not at the point of retiring yet, but I have a lot of friends in my circle that are, and they're going out to lunch all the time. And I'm not talking just, hey, let's go get a quick bite. It's, 2 and 3 hour lunches. And I'm like, I can't do this all the time. So, but it's great. It's wonderful. You know, that we don't have as many responsibilities. You know, our kids are grown, our work schedules maybe are lessened, and so we do have that opportunity to focus in on those relationships. Anything else that you can think of how your relationships might have changed?
You outgrow people.
You outgrow people. Excellent, excellent point. Yes,
You're not coming in on the same channels anymore.
yes, 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 yes. And I had someone the other day ask if that was okay. I don't really want to spend as much time with that person. I feel like we're not on the same page or same channel. Yeah. And yes, it is. It is. We're allowed to change. We're allowed to grow. We're not responsible for other people that are on a different channel, right? Yeah. Anything else that you can think of that might be a change?
Divorce.
Divorce? Yeah. Yeah, that would be one.
Your health keeps you sometimes from going as much as you would have.
Yes. Yes, your health. Yeah.
I withdrew from a lot of responsibilities when I had babies,
Mm-hmm.
and then got back into it as the kids got older, and then I took care of both of my parents, well, actually 3 of them, so I didn't have time to do the other stuff for a
Right.
while. And then, as they passed away, then I could get back in, but you do have to in and out
Yes.
times.
Yeah, so you're saying that your change, you've seen it in and out and in and out, grow and shrink, grow and shrink. Yes. Yes.
So, one of the really significant changes that took place in society impacted our relationships. COVID.
Mm.
We had a vibrant, large dancing community that we used to participate in every week, and we had a great time
Right.
on many levels socially. And when COVID hit, we all stopped dancing. We never saw each other anymore. And after 2 years, 3 years, we never got back into it. And so there's that whole group. When we see them, we say hello, how you doing? We try to catch up, but we don't
Right.
maintain those relationships anymore because of what happened outside of us.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Who knew we would be adding the word pandemic? Right, to the reason why. But it's true. In so many ways, it's true. So many changes. Any other changes that you can think of? These are really great.
Well, I just wanted to add something.
Okay.
Thinking about life and people in it, I have discovered that your hobbies and your interests will never disappoint you, but people will.
Absolutely. In fact, if you look back on that circle that you all wrote down who you had in your circles, there is only one that everyone will disappoint you except for one person on that. And that's God. You're right. No, it's true. That's why this is so important to go over these topics that we're going over. Because it reminds us that we're not all perfect and that others aren't all perfect. And that change is evident. It's not an option. As you saw in your life, right? Your circles were growing and then shrinking because you had responsibilities that really were not in your control. Unless you turned your back, of course, on other people. But that's
My
not.
daughter made me really think about something. She got their family got transferred, and she started working at the Humane Society, and they interviewed her about that, and I read her interview, and she said, I love dogs, and so I'm going to work at the Humane Society and meet other people who love dogs because I know they're going to be wonderful people. So the interest, the hobby,
Yes.
brought the
Yeah.
friends
Yeah.
because they had common interests.
Exactly.
She actually went to the hobby to find the friends.
Exactly.
Wow, what a great idea.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yes, because yes, that is where you're going to find like-minded people, and we usually do get along better with people that are like-minded. Yes, yes. I would get along well with your daughter. I have 3 golden retrievers. So yes. All right. So lots of change, and probably we could continue making lists of this. And if you do, you come up with any changes, feel free to jot them down, because I think the more you know, the more we can do and grow and learn more about these, how to do these relationships. So let's understand the importance. Someone had said you had heard that someone said, "Oh, I don't need any friends," and I've heard that before as well. But I've already said that, you know, when God created Adam, He saw that that was not good for Adam to be alone. And He said that it's not good for man to be alone. And so today, I thought we'd spend a little bit of time exploring what the benefits truly are in having healthy relationships, strong support systems, circles that are thriving. It's quite interesting. In fact, the information, as I've been studying this over the years, continues to keep me in the presence of awe, because it really is quite interesting. So in your notes, it's going to be a little different than what the PowerPoint is, and I'm probably just going to go from our notes since that's what you have. So healthy relationships are going to enhance emotional well-being by reducing loneliness and isolation. The pandemic was already brought up, so the pandemic could have very well, and it did, in some cases. We're still seeing that the first year, the levels of anxiety of people that I worked with was off the charts. Isolation was more common than it wasn't. But we still, during that time, had the opportunity to bring in the platform Zoom. And it was an easy platform that many people could adapt to and use. So you still had ways of communicating, but not as free as what you had prior to. So that being said, which is there's proof that emotional well-being, reducing that loneliness and isolation, can be brought on, or can be reduced by your having strong circles. It also, the research, and a lot of this is research-based, helps reduce anxiety and depressions. And so I always say that friends can be, now you had a point where people disappoint, so not always, but friends can be natural antidepressants and anti-anxiety medicines. So think about some of your good friends that you have. What are some of the things that maybe helps you not feel so down and out, or maybe lessens your anxiety when you're around certain people? What are some things?
They listen to you.
They listen to you, okay? Right? How many of you have a friend that makes you laugh? Yeah. When laughing helps reduce that anxiety, and it increases that serotonin so that you're not as down and out feeling. What else? Can you think of any other friends that you might have? Listening, laughing. Hug.
Hug you.
Yes, that oxytocin. Yes, yes. That's in your homework assignment, by the way, too. That's your challenge, to give more hugs, fist bumps, and high fives. That touch, that's true. That is a true thing. That when you touch someone, even if it's touching them on the shoulder, that oxytocin is released, and oxytocin is a bonding hormone that actually helps us to feel like we belong. And that's one of the desires of our hearts, how we were created too, is that we all want to belong. We want to belong somewhere. So that next line on your handout says that friends provide support, comfort, enthusiasm. How many of you have friends that when something good happens, you text them or you call them or you tell them, and they send, clapping emojis or confetti, or, they congratulate you. So they, that enthusiasm. Validation. Sometimes, you might think that you're going crazy because you believe a certain way or you say something, and friends are like, no, I get you. Yeah, no, that's it. So now we don't have to feel like we're crazy. Wise feedback, because we're older and we're wiser. We really are, because we've lived life, right? We really are, so we can give wise feedback. Research shows that good friends, strong support systems help lower blood pressure and provides better cardiovascular health. That would be a reason, yeah?
I think of like the buddy system.
Mm-hmm.
When I work out, I'm more consistent, better at working out if I have a buddy to work out with.
Yes.
They kind of hold me accountable.
Yes.
And the same thing with church. Spiritually,
Mm.
if I have a buddy that I work with, like an accountability group or an accountability
Yes.
group, same thing. It helps me to be more consistent in my spiritual goals
Yes.
and whatnot.
Yes, it does. Yes, the buddy system. Yeah, I love that. Love that. Thank you. Improved immune system. This one kind of blew me away, so I continued to do a lot of research on this. And so it actually, good, strong support systems help us fight off illnesses more effectively. And they're even showing that people have less cancer diagnosis, and those that are diagnosed with cancer have better outcomes. So not in everyone's situation. That's not to say that have some friends and you won't have a diagnosis, but the research is pointing towards that. I thought that was very interesting. Friends, you live longer. People with strong systems, support systems, tend to live a little bit longer. Have any of you heard of the blue zones?
I was there.
You were there. Which one did you go to? The California?
So, church friends,
Uh-huh.
I'm not Greek, I'm Austrian,
Okay.
but I have a lot of Greek friends,
Uh-huh.
and I go to Greek dances. And
Okay.
I met this girl, I've known her for about 10 years now. She inherited her mother's house in the blue zone.
Oh, wow.
In Greece. And if you don't know
Okay.
what the blue zone is, certain places in the world where the people live to be over 100 years
Mm-hmm.
old.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the island of Ikaria.
Yes.
It's spelled I-K-A-R-I-A.
Yes.
It's like 40 miles from Turkey. It's one of the furthest Greek islands. Yeah, the blue zone.
Fun. Wow.
So,
That's exciting.
When I said, your hobbies and your interests,
Mm-hmm.
I always liked to do that because I had Greek friends when
Sure.
I was a teenager. So I would just call up I'm from Michigan.
Okay.
I would just call up all the Greek churches, find out when the festivals were, and I just met
Fun.
a ton of people.
Right.
One person introduces you to somebody else, and then her mother came over here. Her mother was 96 years old, lived alone on the island of Ikaria. She came over here to visit her daughter, my friend that lives in Michigan, got COVID and died.
Oh.
So my girlfriend inherited her mother's house. So she had to, she wasn't there during the pandemic.
Right.
COVID.
Right.
So she went
Wow.
over there in April last year. And then another friend who's Greek, she and we went for 5 weeks in the summer. She went a
Wow.
little bit earlier to get the house opened up and everything.
Well, how lucky for you to have
Yes,
actually
it
been
was.
there. So you're right. So there's certain components that go into why these people are living to be over 100. And when she says 100, she's not talking about people that are living in nursing facilities where they're being cared for. These are thriving people that are going out and putting fences up and doing
And
gardening and yes. So it's the physical piece of it, it's the nutritional, the food piece. They eat very, very healthy, but community is very, very strong. So they have very strong support systems. So that just goes to show people live longer. So friends and family also can help us as we get older with tasks and physical tasks around the house. You know, probably not a good idea to be climbing up on a high ladder, but you know, when no one's home. So people can help us with the things that maybe we don't do anymore. Transportation, health-related appointments, you know, going to the doctor. There's a lot of information when it comes to medical, and sometimes we don't always retain it or ask the questions that we need. But if we take someone along, a lot of times they can help with that. So a lot of benefits there. Any other benefits that you can think of? Yes.
Some people might have heard this story before.
Okay.
I treated cancer patients
Okay.
for a long time with radiation.
Okay.
I was the technologist, so I did the daily treatment.
Right.
I did all the work for the doctor. And I was jogging on the beach, and I'm in shorts and a t-shirt and a hat, and all of a sudden this guy yells out, "Radiation Joe!" And I look
Wow.
at him, and he looked familiar, and he goes, "You cured me 5 years ago."
Wow.
And so him and I were hugging and crying on the beach, and everybody's looking at us.
Wow.
But there's a relationship that
Yes.
will never end.
Exactly. Exactly. You will always be someone that he appreciates.
Yes.
And I would gather that when you did do the treatments, but it was not as much the treatments that he was holding on to, but it was the way
My
it was,
smile.
yes, yes,
Yes.
yes.
And
Oh,
I've
thanks
got
for sharing.
100 stories like that. So
I
but
bet.
that one's my best one.
Yes,
That's going to my grave with me.
yes, yes, written on your stone.
That's right. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Any other benefits that you can think of? What's that?
I just said it happened to me a lot.
It happened to you a lot.
Because I pastored a church,
Okay.
and the relationships that you develop
Yes.
through that are incredible. And
Yeah.
I often sit and think about some of them
See? Yeah.
that were just so connected.
Yes. And that's so good. What an awesome practice to do is to reflect on the benefits of people that have touched you in your life and the relationships that you've built. Yes. It's just a constant reminder, right?
Well, the beauty of it is that the congregation can react too
Yes.
and
Yes.
work with
Yes.
the leader.
Yes.
So it's pretty exciting.
Yes. It is. It is. And we're already learning that there's many different types of circles and relationships, which is going to take us to this next place where we're going to go back to that page 2, where you evaluated your circles. So I need you to go back there. How many of you were surprised at the different circles and the different friends that you did have? Anyone surprised? Anyone disappointed? Everyone kind of knew where you were at. So look at each one of the categories. Are there any categories that you feel that you could possibly do a little bit of work on? Yeah? Anyone want to share? This is time to be very vulnerable.
Some of us, I'll open up. Some of us can't depend on our family.
Uh-huh.
My only child died
Okay.
2 years ago.
Mm.
He was 38 and had a big valet parking business. And he got a hold of cocaine with fentanyl. So he's not around.
I'm sorry.
And my sister was 65, hadn't turned yet 65. She died from COVID.
Mm.
And so I find out that our life about loss.
Yeah,
There's a lot of loss.
yeah.
So, I don't have children, don't have grandchildren,
Mhm.
don't have my sister.
Mm-hmm.
I do have my brother yet, and I have, a niece and a nephew
Okay. So yeah, that
from a
I'm
marriage,
it- it-
but I'm just saying,
right.
things change.
They do. They absolutely do. So in that case, then we may have to look at other circles then, and where do we pull in and where do we build and or reestablish some of those circles so that again we can, we can be provided with the nourishment that we need. If we're looking at that root system, trees in order to flourish have to have strong root systems. And so it's critical. And everyone is different. Not everyone needs 1,000 friends. And this is why we're taking some time today to kind of evaluate and see where we are at. Maybe you're in a great place. Not a 10 yet, but maybe a 9 plus. So what are some strong circles, areas that you see right now that you've evaluated and indicated? What are some strong areas?
I think family is a strong one.
Okay, family is a strong one for you. Okay.
Church friends.
Church friends. Okay. Okay. Is there a category today, just for today, not tomorrow because changes take place, right? Is there a category today that you might want to focus in on building or strengthening?
Well, overall friendliness, I guess, would be one.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have a category that they're thinking they might want?
We are struggling with that. We, during the year, maybe was it 2 or 3 years ago, was it I think it was just after the pandemic when houses were selling
Mm-hmm.
like cupcakes.
Right.
There was a kid in our neighborhood who was a realtor, and he was selling our houses online. It was just right down the block, and it was all kinds of people from out of town buying them in cash. And so we have a whole neighborhood of empty houses. And my husband and I, now we're friends with the people because we take their garbage out after they leave.
Right.
They call us if there's a hurricane and
Right.
we tell them what's wrong with the house. But it's a strange kind of a friendship
That would
because
be,
it's very dark.
yeah.
And there isn't someone we can say, could you blow the leaves off our roof just today?
Right.
Nobody like that.
Yeah.
One part-time couple lives next door, but they're very young.
Mm-hmm.
So we tried to invite them for Thanksgiving, and they said no. They wanted to do their own Thanksgiving.
Right.
So
That is a strange,
it's
yeah,
a
that's,
very strange
that is a
thing.
very strange
Yeah.
situation. So I guess there are just things, some circles you can't maybe control, you can't change, but
It will change.
it will change as we've learned. Yes, that is. Yeah.
I was just going to add to that because I don't think it is strange.
Okay.
A lot of us are living in neighborhoods where they're changing.
Right.
We're the older crowd
Yes.
that moved in when we were younger.
Right.
And we're selling our homes because they're way too big and way too much to take
Mm-hmm.
care of, and trying to make a decision as to now
Right.
downsize. And those that are buying in are much younger.
Right.
So we are really the old set.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
they're not able to, hey, you want to blow my leaves off
Right.
the roof. They've
Right.
got their own roof. And I think that it does push us, older folk,
Mm-hmm.
into a decision that says, I don't want to move.
Yes.
This is not the right time to move. This is really very difficult. But it may be one of those factors that does push you
Mm-hmm.
into a downsized
Correct.
situation that says, I need to get back with my own people,
Right.
if I know what that looks like. So I don't think it's that unusual, especially in a community like
Mhm,
Sarasota,
mhm.
where there are so many older
Right.
people living here.
Right. And the pandemic brought in a new piece to that puzzle, and that a lot of people found they could work remotely, so they came in and bought homes, and so a lot of changes. So definitely, Are we seeing how relationships really can change? And not always do we have control over it. Right? I guess being thankful for different circles, that we don't just have to rely on that neighborhood, but that we can find circles in other places. Okay, anything else on that one? Because it's time for a snack.
Doesn't look like food though.
It doesn't, but I hear that this is going to be really, really useful. And I know that this one is really, really useful. So how many of you have ever found yourself in a place where you've been overwhelmed by a situation? Raise your hand high. How many of you have ever been in a place where you have encountered someone who has disappointed you or frustrated you or have exhausted you? How many? That's your life? I just explained your life, okay? How many of you have ever been in a situation where you've done everything you can do and you still can't change the situation? Yeah, you can't change people. Yeah, you can't make them well sometimes.
They
Yeah.
need a sympathy card or get well card.
Exactly, exactly. But they need that, so you're in the process. So this is for you. This is your snack. So this is a time when you are just in a place where, you remember when we had little kids and we gave them timeouts? So I like to say this is the adult timeout. Okay? Because what do timeouts do? Timeouts what? What do they do? What did they do for our kids? They calmed them, that, right? Right?
They get in touch with their emotions.
They get in touch with their emotions. Yeah.
Think about consequences.
They can think about consequences. That's right, that's right.
Isolate.
Yeah. But it helps us to redirect. It helps us to take a break. So pausing is taking a break. Because sometimes we can get so determined about something that we're not going to be able to change or we can't do anything about, that we just we get into a place where we need a timeout. So we're going to do this, and I'm going to get us started on it, but then you're going to start doing it in your head. Or if you want to say it out loud, you can. So it's very, very simple. You can do it anywhere. I can even do this at a red light. So you do need a minute, but you don't have to take a minute. And you can take longer than a minute. So there really aren't any rules, which is why I like this snack, because you can eat it as much as you want. You can do it anywhere, anytime, any place, around anyone. And it's simply that you find a spot wherever you're at. You close your eyes. So I'm going to have everybody close their eyes. And all you're going to say is, God, I give everyone and everything to you. God, I give everyone and everything to you. God, I give everyone and everything to you. During this time, Focus on your breathing. Pay attention to the breaths that you're taking in slowly and the breaths that you're releasing slowly. And as you slowly inhale, you're going to exhale slowly and say, God, I give everyone and everything to you. Breathe in. God, I give everything and everyone to you. And when you feel like you're ready to come back, you can open your eyes and come back. How many of you might be able to use that snack? Yeah. All right. Are we ready to figure it out now and put the strategies together? Strategies to build, strengthen, and maintain healthy relationships. So, one of the easiest things that we can begin to do and think about with strategies is, how do you do that? How do you build, how do you strengthen, and how can you maintain healthy relationships? Well, I always say you can begin by becoming the person that you want to see in a friend. So we've heard that, yes.
I just started laughing. I'm reminded of that phrase, become the person your dog thinks you are.
I have that shirt. I have that shirt. Yes, exactly. So become the person your dog thinks you are. Because our dogs love us no matter what, right? All right, let's tackle some of the things that we need to tackle with. Where do we find our circles? So we've already talked a lot about this already. You guys have come up with a lot of good ideas. So where do we find circles? Everything you do, okay. So let's just go over, just in case. Someone said, and you had a great idea about
You create your circle
create,
by your hobbies and your interests.
correct, okay. So look at your hobbies and your interests and what might be available here in this town that would offer that. Or, you know, you could always start your own circle. You could always do that, right? So what are some things? So we've got church, small groups, volunteer. Tons of volunteer opportunities in this community. And on your resource page, there's some referenced places that you can go online and look. But when you start pulling them up, I mean, there's tons and tons and tons of. You can even filter them by your interests of what you would like to do. Take classes. How many of you have used the Suncoast Technical, the ACE program? Yeah. I mean, are there some cool classes?
Yes.
Yeah.
There really are. So the adult continuing education enrichment is wonderful. Engage in community activities where you live. Some of you, maybe not so much because you're going through a change. Your neighborhood's a little different. But maybe you can't. You invited your neighbor over for Thanksgiving. They declined, but you never know when they're going to need you to watch one of their kids or. You never know, right? Yes.
I love to do you know, we collaborated and found a space to go to. So every Saturday morning, we meet and whatever we want to work on, we're working on.
I love that.
And it's become a really important part of my week.
Wow, wow. So Facebook, who knew? Anyone else think of something that we haven't talked about?
I enjoy book clubs.
Book clubs, yeah. Yeah, those are easy, right?
There's another one online called Meetup.
Meetup, yes.
And you can put in
Yes.
walking,
Yes.
walk in the
Yes.
break, walk in the park, or
It's true.
tennis, or
It's
whatever
true.
your interest is, there's a group.
It's true. So is there anyone sitting in this room that feels like that there's just no hope, that there's no place you can find a circle? All right.
I think a good place to start would be the senior center.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah. Yeah, tons of activities. More than you can do, right? Yes. So, is there any question that we have a lot of opportunities to find circles? And are circles beneficial to us? All right. All right, then how do we maintain once we find those circles? We're going to talk now about the strategies. So, become the person your dog thinks you are. We already talked about that. And this is not an exhaustive list. There are tons and tons, and we've already talked a little bit about some of them. The first one I think is really simple. Don't hesitate to initiate a conversation. So if you're standing beside someone, I met someone I was shopping the other day doing retail therapy, and just spoke to her, asked her what she thought about a certain blouse that I had pulled out. And she's like, I really like that. And we got to talking, and she went home and she friended me on Facebook and asked if we could meet up sometime. So, you just initiate simple conversations.
That's funny. I went to the bank because all of a sudden they started charging for checks. And I was like, I'm not doing this. And the banker and I started talking, and we came to some conclusion. She said, there's an art show, because I mentioned how much I like art. And she said, oh, there's an art show today at 4 o'clock. Let's go. First time I ever met her.
Oh my goodness, wow. Instant circle. Wow, that is cool. Yeah, so it's, I guess it comes back to, kindness can be so simple. It takes nothing, really, it doesn't, but it can go a long way. A smile can go a long way. So listen, and someone already said this, a good friend listens and fully concentrates on what's being said. Express genuine empathy. I'm really sorry. Man, that sounds really difficult what you're going through. I had someone ask me the other day, it was a situation that he hadn't handled before and didn't really know what to say to a friend. And so I had a brochure that was given to me by the American Association of Christian Counselors, and it's included in your packet there of your handouts of what to say when you don't know what to say. Because I think a lot of times when you know that there's an existing problem, or you want to say something, you want to be helpful, you just don't know what to say. And so we're not going to spend a lot of time just because we don't have the time. We could spend a whole session on this. But I think that this brochure article talks about some really good ways that we can be there for people. And, the unfortunate part is that sometimes we want to be fixers, and, sometimes we can't fix the problem. I'm sure you found that, Joe, as you were doing, the work that you were doing, would have been nice to just be able to fix them right on the spot. But you showed up for them, and then it paid off. Yeah.
Most husbands, when they talk to their wife, see themselves as fixer up.
Yes, yes.
How can I fix this then?
Exactly. That is, yes. Men are protectors, they are fixers. And I oftentimes have to remind mine, I just need you to listen. I just need you to listen. I already got the answer. I want to vent. Yeah. So
We also do something here at the church called Hope for Communities,
Uh-huh.
Day for Hope,
okay.
where we help the underprivileged kids in the community.
Yes.
And it's coming up soon.
Yes.
And we help them with medical, dental,
Right.
books, and clothing and food.
Right.
And I was shopping in Publix and I wasn't even paying attention to my surroundings. And this little boy grabs my leg and he goes, "Mr. Joe."
Aww.
And I look at him and I remembered him
And he
Day
was
for
from the
Hope.
Day of Hope. Yeah.
And then I look up at his mom and his mom was crying.
Yes.
And here we are hugging and crying.
Yes.
In Publix.
Yes.
So
Yes.
there's so much we can do.
It is true. It is so true. Yes, it is so true. And all you did was show up.
That's right.
You couldn't fix it. You couldn't give him, suggestions and advice. If you just do this, it's going to get better. Sometimes people do ask, what do you think about this? What would you do if you were in this situation? And then, then that's okay. But sometimes they just need that open dialogue. Just, tell me more. That sounds really hard. Wow, I'm sorry you're going through this. Encourage, provide positive feedback. Wow, can't fix your problems, but I love your shoes. Provide honest feedback, I have a friend that taught me this. She said, I used to ask my mom, if this dress made me look fat. And she said, what I realized is that my mom always just told me, well, honey, if you feel fat in that dress, then you probably look fat. So provide honest feedback, but, try to be gentle and kind, but people do want honest feedback. And we've already talked about the advice. Minimize judgment and criticism. I bet none of you do that in here, though. We don't even need to talk about that, right? What are some other ways that people can feel loved, accepted, and supported? Which is, again, how God has created us. We have desires in our hearts, and we want to be loved. We want to be accepted and supported. Not always the same way, but there's always an element of each one of those within us. Anything else that you can think of that you can share?
People like you to remember their name.
Ah,
So bad.
that's a great one. Yes, yes. Any tips for how to remember someone's name? Does anyone have just a great memory of names? Someone introduces themselves and you.
Somebody years and years ago, because I used to be very good at names in high school and college.
Right.
But it's got lost since then. But said relate something to that person. So I went to the NYF Methodist Youth Fellowship district meeting, and I was talking to this girl who talked through her nose, and so I said, "Hi, Janice, how are you?"
Oh no. So you remembered her name, but it was through behavior. That's funny. Yes, it is true though. What you say is that when you call someone by their name, it truly increases the value of that conversation. It does. People like to hear their names. Yes.
One of the things we do at the town square, which is an adult education recreation center, is we are all constantly wearing a name tag, and when even the helpers in the club in the group,
Yes.
when they address us, they call you. The name tag has just your first name.
Right.
So they call you Mr. Lynn.
Okay.
And I definitely feel it's a very strong,
Yes.
helpful
Yes.
way to want to start a conversation when you speak to the person, mention their name.
Correct.
Speak to them.
Yes, I love that. Yes, it definitely. And name tags
And one
are
woman
so
said to
helpful.
me, she says hello to me, and I didn't recognize her. I had forgotten her completely. And she says, "My name is Georgia, like the state."
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So if it's associating
Yes.
something new with
Mhm.
something you want to remember.
Yes. So maybe that is a strategy that you want to work on. Pick one of these strategies that we've talked about, or maybe anyone else have any other strategies? Yes.
Little texts saying you're thinking of them, or that you
Yes.
saw something that reminded you of them.
Yes.
Or you,
Yes.
remember that recipe and you cooked the recipe they gave you.
Yes.
And then also sending cards.
Yes.
Cards are huge because it's something they can
Yes.
put on the dresser or the kitchen table or the mantle and touch
Yeah.
and read again.
It's so true. It's so true. And I think that's in one of your homework assignments. I think that's it is so true. Just randomly reaching out to somebody that, maybe needs a smile, needs a cheering up, and cards, like you said, no one sends cards anymore, right?
But
Yeah.
what I found out is a lot of times when they come into my mind and I connect with them, something's been going on.
Yeah.
Put it in.
Oftentimes it is.
Get smarter
Uh-huh.
as soon as I get the message, do it.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. You
I
think
didn't
that's
really think of them.
right.
God told me to think.
Exactly. I was just going to say, you think that's a coincidence? No, it's true. It is true. So that's great. That's a great strategy. Anyone else? You guys have really good ones. You are all good friends. Yes. Anything else?
Taking a meal now and then.
Okay. Meals.
Or
Yeah.
cookies or chocolate. Chocolate really does
Chocolate.
everything.
It does, doesn't it? Yes, yes. Those rocks last month, I kept mine in my car, and I love it. Just little things, little random acts of kindness. Okay, so how many of you feel like you've got it, you can do this? You're in a pretty good place. So there's one other thing that you don't have notes on that I do want to talk about, just because I think it's important. And it's being intentional about the people that we do spend time with. So if this class and this series of what we're doing is for our well-being, and we've already learned that we can't change people, and we also know that sometimes people disappoint us, and we can't do anything about that. We can forgive and move on, and it could be good. But then there are those people sometimes that you are around, and they just drain the life out of you. And so I want to spend just 2 minutes talking about this, is that just encouraging you to be intentional about how you feel when you are around certain people. And that doesn't mean that those people that suck the life out of you, that you don't ever spend time with them. But as human beings, God has designed us limited. So we are limited with resources. Our emotional being is limited as to how many burdens we can take on. He didn't design us to take the burdens of the world on. And so being intentional in order to maintain a healthy well-being, we have to be able to balance the number of people in our lives that give us nourishment and help us to thrive, and then those people that might suck some of that out, but making sure that we've got that balance going. And that's real important when it comes to well-being. And I think as Christians, it's hard because we're supposed to love our neighbors as ourselves, right? And just because you can't spend time with someone that sucks the life out of you doesn't mean that you don't love them. It just means that you're recognizing that right now your bandwidth can't stream their problems, you know? Have you ever been on a lousy Wi-Fi and you've tried to stream a video and you can't because you don't have enough bandwidth? And that's kind of where we're at in our lives, is that we don't have enough bandwidth to take on everybody's burdens. So that also is in your homework, because sometimes, and I work with people that I don't think they sometimes even realize that it's okay to say, you know, I just don't have the bandwidth to deal with her or him today. And it's okay. It's okay. So I wanted to add that extra special piece to you, because I know that you guys are special people, and you're doing well and doing a lot for a lot of people. So it's time to say this is the end. So a couple of things that I came up with, and I want you to be thinking about you. Healthy connections support us, and they empower us. As we age, relationships change. And healthy relationships provide a lot of physical, emotional, spiritual benefits to add to our root system to make us strong, strong trees. So I would love to hear what you are walking away with today. What is one thing that you didn't know or that you were reminded of before you came here today?
We knew everything.
You knew everything. So what was the one thing that you're going to walk away with and say, wow, I'm so glad I just spent the afternoon here? Yes.
I think I realized that the person that I need to call at 3 a.m. needs to be a little closer. So I need to
Okay.
develop a special relationship with a neighbor that's a little closer.
Okay. So building that 3 a.m. call. What else? What else are we going to walk away with? Yes.
I think it's important to recognize that as we get older, we go deeper with our relationships, and by definition, they have to be over. And that's okay, because especially if we are, getting sparser in those groups, we need those relationships more to fuel us and feed us.
Yes, we do.
Our well-being. I think oftentimes it's like, boy, we're down to 3 people. I gotta have a social life. And the reality of that is not everybody has even 3 people. And if you need those people, you need to nurture those relationships. So I think we need to, as older Americans, give ourselves permission to look at a social life in a social circle differently than we may have when we were in our 40s and 50s.
I agree. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. 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 Anyone else? People are hard. Sometimes it can be hard. Yeah. But there's help.
I think the thing that I'm gonna go away with is the last thing you said about if you have a person that drains you, balance that with people that feed you.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea.
That's a John Townsend idea. In your resources, there are books, and most of them are, one of my 2 favorite authors is John Townsend and Henry Cloud. Henry Cloud actually wrote, I think it was Henry Cloud that wrote it, Necessary Endings, where, sometimes we have to say goodbye to people because they're not good for us. And John Townsend wrote a book, People Fuel, and that's exactly what it's about. It's about how people are the nutrients in our lives. And as we get older, you know, our circles, they tend to shrink because we need nutrients. You know, we really do. And so, as you've said, you know, those relationships are deeper. So, yeah. And don't feel guilty about, you know, identifying those drainers. Yeah, they're there. They're there. So your homework is to list through, or to choose at least 3 of the action steps listed. Now, if you want to be, you know, be a top at your class, you can do more than 3. But I think most of them are pretty simple to do and just get you into an attitude of building those circles, strengthening those circles, where you might need to look at your circles, giving yourselves permission to go deeper or to limit your exposure. And then, of course, the resource pages. The snack that we did, that one is listed. There is actually an app on your phone or your device that you have. You can download the 1-minute pause. And that's John Eldredge. That is John Eldredge's. He wrote a book, Take Your Life Back in a Crazy, Chaotic World, I think. I think I wrote it in there. Everyday Practice for a World Gone Mad. And that's where he introduces the 1-minute pause. And so you can download that, and it will send you notifications. It's time for a pause. So it reminds you that you don't have to stay in that overwhelm, that place where you're frustrated. So I would encourage you to check that one out if you found that snack to be helpful. And I think that's it, unless you can think of anything else.
No, the only other thing would be that our next time that we meet is going to be on May 14th, and we're going to talk about creating your sanctuary, crafting a peaceful habitat. Ooh. So, homework, whatever. We're gonna do some fun stuff with that. So, May 14th, right here, same time, same place, and we'll see you next month.